I was folding laundry that Tuesday afternoon when I felt something stiff in the pocket of Linda's favorite winter coat. At first, I thought it was just an old receipt. She was always stuffing random papers in her pockets. But when I pulled it out, my fingers recognized the smooth plastic texture instantly. A hotel keycard from the Sunset Inn. My hands started shaking before my brain even processed why not just last weekend Linda had told me she was visiting her sister Susan upstate. "We need some girl time," she'd said, kissing my cheek as she left. I'd helped load her suitcase into the car myself. But here's the thing, Susan lives nearly 200 miles north in Albany. This hotel key in my hand? The Sunset Inn is 3 blocks from Linda's office downtown. 3 blocks. I sat down hard on the bed, the keycard burning a hole in my palm. 20 years of marriage flashed before my eyes, our wedding day, the birth of our daughter, buying this house. Could all of that really be a lie? My first instinct was to call Linda right then, demand an explanation. But something stopped me. Maybe it was the way my gut twisted, telling me this was bigger than one hotel key. Maybe it was the memory of how Linda had been working late every Thursday for months. I took a deep breath and put the keycard back exactly where I found it. Then I did something I'd never done before in our marriage. I started investigating. The next morning, I called in sick to work and drove to the Sunset Inn. The clerk at the front desk recognized Linda from the photo on my phone. "Oh, sure, she's here every Thursday with her husband," he said cheerfully. My blood ran cold. He described a man, tall, salt and pepper hair, drives a black Lexus. Not me. Never me. That's when I knew I needed proof, real proof. I installed a security camera facing our driveway just to see who was dropping her off after these late nights at work. What I saw on that footage destroyed what was left of my heart. There was Linda, laughing as she leaned into a kiss from a man who wasn't me, the same man the hotel clerk had described. The timestamp read 11:47 p.m. I played the clip over and over, watching my wife's face light up in a way I hadn't seen in years. That's when the shaking started again, but this time it wasn't from shock. It was rage, pure white-hot rage. Because in that moment, I realized our entire marriage had been a carefully constructed lie. And I was going to make sure she paid for every second of it. The keycard was just the beginning. The security footage was the confirmation. But what came next? That would be my revenge. And it would be so much worse than anything she could imagine. Because after 20 years, I knew every single one of Linda's secrets. And I was about to use every last one of them against her. The framed photo on my nightstand showed our 25th anniversary dinner. Linda in that blue dress I loved, my arm around her waist, both of us smiling like we had our whole lives ahead of us. That was just 8 months ago. Now, I can't even look at that picture without feeling sick to my stomach. I remember teaching little Emily how to ride her bike last summer. Linda held the back of the seat while I ran ahead with the camera. "You've got this, sweetheart." Linda had called out, her voice full of that warmth I'd fallen in love with decades ago. Emily wobbled but stayed upright, her pink helmet bobbing as she pedaled toward me. That was the last truly happy day I can remember. The changes came slowly at first. Thursday nights became late work meetings. Her phone, which used to sit casually on the kitchen counter, now stayed glued to her hand or disappeared into her purse. I'd catch her smiling at texts, but when I asked who it was, she'd just say, "Oh, just Susan," or work stuff. The way she angled the screen away from me should have been my first real warning. Then came the weekend trips. Book club retreat, spa weekend with the girls, visiting mom, always with that same small suitcase, the one I bought her for our anniversary. She'd return relaxed, almost glowing, with stories about massages and wine tastings that never quite added up when I thought about them later. The gym bag was what finally broke me. Linda had started going to yoga classes 3 mornings a week. One rainy Tuesday, I offered to bring it to her car so she wouldn't have to run through the downpour. The weight felt wrong, too heavy for just workout clothes. My fingers brushed something hard at the bottom. A phone. Not her iPhone with the sunflower case I'd given her, but a sleek black one I'd never seen before. It lit up when I touched it. 3 new messages from Jay. Miss you. When's our next trip? The usual room is booked for Thursday. My hand shook so badly I nearly dropped it. 20 years. 2 kids. A mortgage. A life built together. And it could all be destroyed by a secret phone in a gym bag. I didn't sleep that night. At 3 a.m., I found myself dialing Susan's number, my finger hovering over the call button. What would I even say? Hey, Susan, did Linda really stay with you last weekend? I imagined the awkward silence, the careful excuses. But I had to know. The phone rang 4 times before she answered, her voice thick with sleep. Hello? Susan, it's Mark. Sorry to call so late. My throat felt like it was lined with sandpaper. I just was Linda really with you last weekend? The silence stretched so long I felt the call had dropped. Then so quiet I almost missed it. No. That single word hit me like a punch to the gut. All the air left my lungs. Susan started saying something about how Linda had asked her to cover, but I wasn't listening anymore. The room spun around me. Every late night, every mysterious trip, every secretive text, they all clicked into place with terrible clarity. I spent the next day in a daze, moving through my routine like a robot. Work emails, lunch, a meeting I barely remembered afterward. All while that phone burned a hole in my mind. Who was Jay? How long had this been going on? Most importantly, what was I going to do about it? That's when I realized something about myself. The initial shock had faded, replaced by something colder, harder. I wasn't ready to confront Linda, not yet. First, I needed to see him. I needed to look the man who was destroying my marriage in the eye. I needed to know exactly what I was up against. The gym bag still sat where I'd left it, the secret phone, hidden inside exactly as I'd found it. My fingers itched to go through it, to read every message, to mine it for clues. But that would come later. For now, I had a different plan. Thursday was just 2 days away. Linda would be going to her yoga class. And this time, I'd be ready. The business card for Thompson Investigations felt heavy in my pocket as I parked outside their downtown office. The glass-fronted building looked more like a law firm than a detective agency. I'd never imagined I'd be hiring someone to investigate my own wife. The receptionist gave me a sympathetic smile that made my skin crawl. How many betrayed spouses had she seen walk through these doors? Victor Thompson turned out to be a former cop with salt and pepper, hair and eyes that missed nothing. He didn't flinch when I showed him the secret phone. We see this all the time, he said, his voice calm. First thing we'll do is trace the number. He tapped the screen. This Jay, any idea who that might be? I shook my head. But I know where. They're meeting Thursday. My voice sounded strange to my own ears, too flat, too controlled. Victor's team worked fast. By Wednesday afternoon, he called me into his office. The wall-mounted screen showed a college yearbook photo. James Robert Calloway. Went to State University with Linda. They dated sophomore year. The face staring back at me was handsome in a generic way. Square jaw, perfect teeth. The kind of man who'd been captain of the football team. My stomach twisted. How long? At least 3 years, Victor said. He pulled up credit card statements showing regular charges at the Sunset and going back 36 months. They've been meeting every other Thursday like clockwork. The details poured over me like ice water. The work trips to Chicago that match Jake's business travel. The jewelry store charges on our shared card right before Linda's birthday gifts from Susan. The restaurant receipts from places I'd never taken her to. Then Victor dropped the real bomb. There's something else. He opened our joint banking records. See these transfers to the home improvement fund? He pointed to a $28,000 discrepancy. That money never made it to your contractor. I nearly vomited right there on his desk. That was Emily's college money, the fund we'd been building since she was born. Linda had looked me in the eye and lied about the contractor needing upfront payment. Victor's hand on my shoulder brought me back. We need to move fast. As she's draining accounts, ... He didn't need to finish. I nodded, my jaw clenched so tight. It ached up the next morning. I sat across from Martha Cole, the most feared divorce attorney in the county. Her office smelled like expensive leather and sharper like the woman herself. About redecorating the guest room, completely oblivious to the storm about to break. I waited until dessert was served before clearing my throat. We'll freeze all joint assets today, she said, scribbling notes. But I need to know, do you want revenge or protection? The question hung in the air. I thought about Emily, about the life we'd built. Both, I heard myself say. Martha smiled like a shark. Good answer. She opened a folder. Because Mr. Calloway has an interesting past. The police report showed a restraining order from 5 years ago. Some woman named Rebecca Tanner claiming harassment. And this ... She slid across a grainy motel surveillance photo. The blood drained from my face. There was Jake, his arm around a blonde woman who wasn't Linda, checking into some roadside motel. The date stamp showed last month, right after Linda's spa weekend. Martha's voice cut through my days. Your wife isn't his only affair. According to my sources, he's got at least 2 other women on the hook. She leaned forward. Here's what we're going to do. Her plan unfolded with military precision. First, we'd document every penny Linda had stolen. Then we'd gather evidence of the affair, not just for the divorce, but for the criminal fraud charges Martha was already drafting. Finally, and this was the part that made my hand shake, we'd set a trap. The next time they meet, Martha said, we'll have someone waiting. She meant Victor's team, of course. They'd get photos, recordings, everything we needed to bury Jake in court and leave Linda with nothing. I walked out of that office feeling like a stranger in my own skin. The man who'd entered would never have considered setting up his own wife. But that man was gone, replaced by someone colder, harder. Someone who understood now that love could be weaponized. That night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling while Linda slept peacefully beside me. Her phone buzzed at 1:17 a.m. I watched the light from the screen play across her face as she read the message, the tiny smile she couldn't suppress. My fingers dug into the mattress. 2 more days until their next meeting. 2 more days until I'd finally meet the man who'd stolen my wife. The morning brought another surprise. While Linda showered, I checked our security cameras, the ones she didn't know I'd installed. The footage showed Jake's black Lexus idling down the street at 6:30 a.m. Waiting for what? A signal? A glimpse of her? The sheer boldness of it took my breath away. At work, I pretended everything was normal while secretly accessing our financial records. The paper trail Victor had found was just the beginning. Linda had opened a separate credit card last year, one with $15,000 in charges for hotels, restaurants, even a weekend ski trip I'd supposedly been too busy to join. The pieces kept falling into place with terrifying clarity. The emergency withdrawals from our savings, the mysterious deposits into Linda's personal account, the life insurance policy she'd pressured me to increase last winter. Each discovery felt like another punch to the gut. By Thursday, I was running on coffee and rage. Linda left for her yoga class, wearing the perfume I'd bought her for our anniversary. I waited 5 minutes, then followed, Victor's team already in position. The Sunset Inn looked shabbier in daylight, the neon sign flickering like a bad omen. From my car across the street, I watched Linda enter room 214. My hands clenched the steering wheel. Part of me wanted to storm in right then. But Martha's words echoed in my mind, patience, let them dig their own grave. The text from Victor came an hour later, got everything. And wait till you see this. The attached photo showed Jake leaving the motel with the same blonde woman from the earlier surveillance footage. They were kissing passionately while Linda was presumably still inside. That's when the final piece clicked. Linda wasn't just cheating, she was being played. The realization should have brought satisfaction. Instead, it just made me feel empty. The woman I'd loved for 20 years had thrown away our family for a man who saw her as just another conquest. I drove home in a daze, my mind already racing ahead to Martha's next steps. The divorce papers were ready. The fraud charges were prepared. The evidence was overwhelming, but none of it brought the relief I'd expected. Just a deep, uncheckable sadness for all we'd lost, and the cold certainty that after tomorrow, nothing would ever be the same again. The Sunday dinner had been Linda's idea. "Let's have the whole family over," she'd said, that same bright smile on her face that used to make my heart skip. Now it just made my skin crawl. She didn't know I'd already filed the divorce papers. Didn't know about the evidence Victor had compiled. Certainly didn't know about the voicemail I'd saved on my phone, the one where she giggled to Jake about their Mexico plans. I watched her arrange the floral centerpiece, fussing over the silverware like this was just another family gathering. Susan brought her famous pecan pie. Linda's brother David came with his new wife. Even Emily flew in from college, though she kept shooting me worried looks. I hadn't been myself lately, and she'd noticed. The roast beef tasted like sawdust in my mouth. Linda chattered. "There's something I need to share with everyone," I said, my voice calm despite the adrenaline coursing through me. Linda's fork froze midair. I pulled out my phone. This came in last week. The voicemail played clearly in the sudden quiet of the dining room. Linda's voice, bright and giddy. "Jake said we'll be in Mexico by Christmas. He's got everything arranged. Just need to get the money transferred, and we're..." Her words cut off as I stopped the recording. The silence was deafening. Emily's hand flew to her mouth. Susan's face went pale. David slowly put down his wine glass, the crystal ringing like a bell against the table. Linda's face cycled through shock, denial, then raw panic. It's not what it sounds like." David stood so fast his chair scraped the floor. "You stole from him?" His voice shook with fury. "Your own granddaughter's college fund?" The dam broke then. Susan started crying. Emily looked between us, her eyes wide with betrayal. "Mom? What's going on?" Linda's perfect facade finally cracked. "It's not stealing. That money was half mine anyway." The words came out in a rush, defensive and ugly. "You have no idea what. Our marriage has been like ... That's enough." My voice cut through the chaos. I pulled out the folder Martha had prepared, copies for everyone, bank statements, hotel receipts, even photos. I looked at Linda, really looked at her for the first time in months. "You weren't even his only one." The color drained from her face as she flipped through the pages. There was Jake with a blonde woman. Jake checking into motels, Jake's police record. The evidence was overwhelming, irrefutable. Emily started sobbing. David put it protective, arm around her while his wife quietly gathered the dessert plates, as if trying to give us some dignity in this moment of complete collapse. Linda's hands trembled as she reached for my arm. Mark, please, ... we can work this out, ... I stepped back, out of her reach. The judge gave me the house, I said quietly. The accounts have been frozen, Jake? I let out a bitter laugh. He left town the next day after Victor paid him a visit. With these photos, the realization hit her like a physical blow. She'd been played. Her perfect escape plan had crumbled, and now she had nothing. No husband, no lover, no money. The raw horror on her face should have given me satisfaction. Instead, I just felt tired. Susan was the first to leave, muttering something about needing air. David followed after a long look at his sister, disappointment etched in every line of his face. Emily hesitated at the door, tears streaming down her cheeks. How could you? She whispered to Linda before turning away. I stayed long enough to watch Linda pack a suitcase, her movements jerky with suppressed sobs. She kept glancing at me, waiting for me to stop her, to say we could fix this. I didn't. Her wedding ring sat on the kitchen counter where she'd left it, catching the afternoon light. 20 years reduced to a circle of gold on cold granite. I picked it up, weighing it in my palm for a moment before dropping it into the trash. The house felt different after she was gone. Not peaceful, exactly, but quieter. The ghosts of all our years together lingered in every room, but for the first time in months, I could breathe. I poured myself a drink and sat at the now empty dining table, staring at the abandoned pecan pie. Victor called around 9. Okay, he asked, his usual professional detachment softened with genuine concern. I will be, I said, and realized it was true. The hardest part was over. The legal battles would drag on, of course, but the war was won. Linda would get what the law required and not a penny more. Jake was already 3 states away, probably looking for his next mark. I walked through the house that night, turning off lights Linda had left on out of habit. In Emily's old room, I paused at the photo of us at her high school graduation, the 3 of us smiling, a happy family frozen in time. I took it down carefully and put it in a drawer. Some memories were too painful to keep on display. The next morning, I woke with the sunrise. The bed felt too big without Linda in it, but for the first time in years, I didn't wake up wondering if my wife loved me. I knew the answer now. Knew a lot of things I wished I didn't. The kitchen still smelled of last night's dinner as I made coffee. Linda's favorite mug sat in the cupboard, gathering dust. I took it down, studied the chip on the handle from when Emily had dropped it as a child, then placed it gently in the donation box by the door.